Welcome to Her Story, Our Strength, the podcast where we delve into the journeys of inspiring women who are breaking barriers, shattering ceilings, and making their mark in every field. On today's episode, we're thrilled to have Marie Vickles, the Senior Director of Education at the Perez Art Museum, Miami, who has worked in various roles within the museum's education department since October of 2013. In her work as the Senior Director of Education, she administers programs that directly serve over 100,000 children, youth, and adults annually. Marie has organized arts educational programs, workshops, and exhibitions across the United States and Caribbean for over 20 years and maintains an active practice as an independent curator, producing exhibitions and curatorial projects. Marie completed her studies at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City and Florida State University and serves on the Art in Public Places Professional Advisory Committee for Miami-Dade County Cultural Affairs. In her work as an arts educator and cultural practitioner, she is concerned with the relationship between creativity and community engagement, with the goal of supporting equity, sustainability, and access for all through the arts. So let's get ready to be inspired. Please help me welcome Ms. Vickles to Her Story, Our Strength. First, I want to thank you, Ms. Vickles, for having us here, and are you ready for some questions?
Yes, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Good. So first, can you walk me through what a day in your life looks like?
Oh gosh, well, I think one of the fun things about the work I do, there isn't really a typical day. Every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen today, right? So that for me is actually really exciting. Maybe if I preferred, I don't know, I guess a more regular or consistent schedule, that probably would drive me crazy. But for my personality, that works. I like, adventure. I like dealing with maybe like unexpected things that come up. So a typical day could look like maybe we have a program at the museum and we're getting ready to like welcome people that are coming in from out of town. Something like that, or we could be hosting an event with PTAC, the PAM Teen Arts Council that Blanca talked about, and the teens could be, organizing and putting all their programming together, and we're like getting the museum set up for something like that. Maybe a more like chill day could just be like a lot of paperwork, signing things, like reading through like contracts, not really like the fun stuff, but the things that help us get the work done overall. So every day's a little different, and I really appreciate that.
So majority of the time you like to be kept on your toes.
Yes.
So that's good, that's good. Did you always know that you wanted to work in the arts? If not, what may you have seen your future self doing instead?
Yeah, definitely. I always knew I wanted to do something creative, something to do with art. As like a young child, like I remember some of my earliest memories are like making things, like making art. And I didn't know what it meant to like work as an artist or work even within the art field. I honestly, even when I started college, I didn't think about museums as a career choice. It really wasn't something on my radar, but I knew I wanted to be involved in like a creative field. Yeah. So yeah.
That's good. I feel like the area of art can like seem daunting if you're trying to approach it as a career because it's so vast and there's like so many things and it can be hard to make it, but it's really great that you found something that you love.
Yeah.
Do you believe all the different skills you acquired during college led you to become an independent curator?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, during college was when my friends and we got together. We're all artists making work, and we're like, hey, let's just put together our own art exhibitions, because how do we get into galleries? How do we get our artwork on the wall and see what we're making out there. And so the easiest and like the best way for us to do it at that time was to just put our own shows together. And I think that kind of independent like drive and those ideas are definitely what helped me build towards like a curatorial career as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What skill specifically has spearheaded your role, or what do you think has been the most helpful of your traits?
I think optimism.
Oh, that's important.
I think that's a really helpful trait to have, especially in any field in life. You know, like life's not easy, but if you're able to see the potential in a situation, right, it can really take you far. We don't always have a choice on our circumstances, what we have to deal with. So being able to like see not necessarily an opportunity, but maybe it is an opportunity sometimes, but to see that each moment that you're dealing with is just that moment, and there's something that you can take from it to the next part of your life is super important.
Yeah. So know that there's always hope for
There's
something
always
else.
hope. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super.
Yeah.
I love that. Getting to know you from a student's perspective, were you more of an outgoing or introverted person in high school?
I was maybe kind of both. Like, I was definitely a little shy, and I wouldn't necessarily like put myself on the spot. But then I remember doing like crazy things. Like, I remember this IB project we had. I don't know how I got talked into this, but we did like this whole performance as part of our project. And I was like singing on a stage. I'm like, oh, thank God we did not have cell phones back then to like record that.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I'm not a singer. So it just depends. Like, you know.
Do you think that your personality in terms of that has changed since college and becoming an adult, or are you still like in that midway?
I still feel like sometimes I feel introverted and I'm just like, I just want to be alone and quiet. And sometimes I feel very outgoing. So I feel like I have a little bit of both. It just depends on what day you catch me. And
I think the balance is good. So you've had experience in textile, jewelry, and graphic design, and to even be an art teacher. So do you think that if it weren't for these experiences, you wouldn't have ended up as an independent curator?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know, right? Because like our experiences add up to the path that we're on. So it's hard to say. I think every single thing I've done, whether it's within the art field or outside of it, has taught me so much. And each experience adds to the knowledge base that I pull from every day. Because sometimes I'm working on things that I don't necessarily have like a deep knowledge in, right? But because I remember working as a textile designer and like working with factories overseas and thinking about how you communicate like, you know, designs or things like that across like many different barriers, language, time zones, etc. Sometimes experiences like that end up helping you in unexpected ways. So I would also say like every single work experience you have, from the smallest to the biggest, help. Like especially like customer service jobs.
Yeah.
Like it's always about customer service. It's always about working with people. So yeah.
It's like all those little things like happen for a reason to get you where you are today. Have you ever had to make any sacrifices to get where you are today, and if so, what were they?
Yes, definitely. I think probably the maybe earlier years of like schooling, when I first moved to New York to go to school, I was working full time and also going to school full time. So it was so intense. I just remember feeling really like overwhelmed sometimes. I'd get home at like 10, 11 o'clock and have to do homework and then get up for school and be at school by like 8:30, which was painful. It felt really intense, but it also just pushed me to my limits in a good way. You know, thankfully it's like semesters, so I would get a break at the end of the semester, but I also did really, really good in school. In some ways I did like better in those years when I was forced to like be pushing it to the limit versus years where I didn't have to maybe take on as many outside hours of work or things like that. So yeah.
And why do you think that the pushing helped you like perform better? Just stress?
I wonder, no. Maybe it's like, you know, the desire and also knowing like I had to get it done.
Yeah.
Kind of just gives you that extra drive to like follow through. I think that's important, but there also has to be a balance because you can get burnt out if you're pushing yourself to the limit 24/7. So it's definitely about balance.
I think that would resonate a lot with a lot of people listening today because obviously this is a high performing school and people have our academics and our sports and our clubs and jobs and families. So I think a lot of people can relate. But see, she's very successful and she did it all. So it's kind of, I guess, inspiring. Yeah. Do you have a favorite art exhibition that you've worked on and why?
Ooh, gosh. Actually, I'll just talk about the one I most recently did because they're all different. But there's one that's actually up right now. It's at the History Museum at History Miami, and it's called Sanctuary, Our Sacred Place. And I really love this exhibition because I think it recognizes Miami and all the different communities that are a part of Miami and all the various like spiritual practices that people engage in. And it was just such a lovely experience to work on with the people that are featured in the photographs, different communities across the city. The artist that I worked with, he's this incredible photographer. His name is Woosler Delafour. And he's been working with a lot of these communities for years. So he's built up a lot of trust. You know, people let him go in and document like different practices that they're doing. And I think the most beautiful part of that exhibition was it showed how connected we are as people across religion, across different belief systems, across like communities. And I think that's a really important message right now for us to hear, that we're more connected than we think, than separated. Yeah.
It's amazing. That sounds really interesting. I might take a visit to see
that. I would encourage you all to go.
Of your exhibitions, which do you think has been the most challenging, either to kind of put together or whatever it may be?
Oh, they're all challenging in different ways, I swear. I think like there's always a moment working on these projects where I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? There's always that moment. But then I'm like, because I love it, keep going. So, you know, I think actually the last one I worked on was the biggest one I've done. It has 145 photographs. Wow. It's like 5,000 square feet. Yeah, and it was a huge show. And so some of the things I took risks on, you know, it was like, I hope these paint colors look good together because it's a lot of walls. And wherever we're setting things up, it's like, it's a big change to like have people move like a 20-foot wall. If you're like, oh no, I don't think it looks good there, we need to move it. So taking those kind of risks, was very challenging, but it also gave me a lot of confidence once I saw like, okay, your ideas worked. You can trust in yourself even more than before.
Well, I guess it goes to show that you're saying that this was your favorite one. Yeah. It was the most challenging. So maybe those things that you have to work the hardest for will end up being the most rewarding.
That is so true. I'm going to
words to live by. There you go. If you had a time machine, what advice would you give to your younger self, or would there be anything that you want to change?
That's such a good question. So lately I've been on this kind of like mantra of, it sounds very simple, maybe even corny, but like this mantra of like, believe in yourself. Like it's so simple, but it's like whatever it is you want to do, like that is the key. Like it can be something super small or super big or weird or whatever, but that's the advice I would go back and give myself. Do not doubt that you can do whatever it is that you feel is important and that you want to do. Because there's people out there doing all kinds of, to me, wild, crazy, silly things, and they're doing it, and they're doing it well, and they're having success with it. So it's like, why not you, right? Like, don't doubt yourself ever. I could get more
pretty
into
simple,
it, but I don't want to get too silly with it.
So you would just take away that doubt that you might have felt when you were younger.
Yes, totally. Do not doubt. Just go for it.
That's great. As a female in the artist world, do you feel you've had to face certain barriers because of your sex, and how do you combat these in your day-to-day life?
Ugh, yes. Yeah, it's still a thing, y'all. Hopefully it will become less and less. I think I go back to this thing about believing in yourself. It's really about that. I try not to get too invested in what other people might think about me or what their perceptions might be, especially when it comes to gender. When I show up as myself. I'm going to do what I'm there to do, and it's if somebody has an issue because, oh, I'm a woman, I'm this, I'm that, they're not sure if I could do it. That's really for them to work out, not me. Like, I'm here to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Have you found that your field is more like male dominated, female mix?
You know what? It's interesting. It still is pretty much a male dominated field, but really at the top. So
Yeah.
the folks in charge tend to be a lot of men. But in specific kind of pockets of the art world, there are a lot of women in like education, for example. I'm in the education department at the museum. A lot of us are women in that group. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I've found like across the board, I just show up as me, and I'm there to do what I'm gonna do, and whatever kind of stereotypes people may have within themselves, that's for them to work out, and I'm gonna keep pushing for what I need to get done, and have open conversations with people, acknowledge what they may or may not feel comfortable about, or what maybe they have never experienced, a woman in a leadership role in that way, and that's okay. It's like, it's just about people working with other people at the end of the day.
It's amazing. In another interview, you stated that one of the things that society can do to best support artists and therefore contribute to a creative ecosystem is to get involved. Do you believe that social media impacts the level of exposure patrons have to the art world?
Yeah, I think it can. I think it opens up a space for folks to have a voice, like as an artist, as somebody that appreciates the arts. Like, if you're on social media, you can create a platform that other people can enjoy, they can learn from. I know that when I'm on social media and I see something really cool, something I haven't seen before, like, it definitely inspires me to like research, learn more. Like, I'll follow like an artist or somebody that's like talking about something kind of interesting or cool.
So you've utilized social media a lot when you do exhibitions, or like you have a project with the
and
kids?
to share, to share what's going on, like whether it's at the museum or in my own practice. It is kind of like a job, though. Sometimes it feels like a lot of work. I could probably be better at posting, but
it's okay. As long as you're getting the real work done, that's what matters.
I'm like,
There are a lot of artists in this building. What advice do you have for students who are looking to develop a path in the arts, whether it's literally art, managing, curating?
I would say learn about the business side of things, especially if you want to pursue that as like your career in terms of like making money. As an artist, like, your personal expression, how you make art, what you're interested in sharing in your work is yours. What's important to understand, I think, that is not always talked about so much in art school, but I hope it becomes something more, but even if it doesn't, you have to self-educate yourself, is to really learn about how the market works, because it is an industry like any other industry. Maybe it's like a little more based on like social connections and things like that, but it's really important to learn how to read contracts. Like, please read your contracts if you're an artist, or ask for contracts, like if you're going to do a project with somebody. That way everyone is clear on like what the requirements are, what the expectations are. For example, so I would just say overall, whatever it is, a graphic designer, an administrator, anything, like learn the business side of things. Just knowing like that creative part of you is you. No one can take that away. It's like what makes you unique.
And so you say that that wasn't really covered in art school. So do you think you like
No.
learned that on the way, like through mistakes, through people?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
All of the above. Yeah. Hopefully, I think in some cases they're starting to do that a little bit more, but like in fine arts programs, for example, they really don't focus on the business of an artist. Like, how do you survive once you're like, boop, you graduated, you're out in the world.
So
now
do you
what?
think like maybe having a mentor or something to help you through that would be a good option? Okay.
Yes, mentorship is everything. It's really helpful. Yeah.
Did you ever have someone that was like a good mentor to you that?
Yeah, and I still do. I wish I had more mentors when I was like, I think in college and even high school growing up, but I had some really amazing and helpful teachers and professors that I'm still grateful for to this day that helped me to just have different experiences that I maybe would not have had an opportunity to be involved in. And those experiences really taught me a lot. Like, and very random experiences. Like one semester, I remember I got to intern at Vogue, which was
Wow.
like, I was like, okay, this is wild. I interned in the photography department. I got to like see all of their archives, like
Wow.
all the Vogues, like back to like 1920 or whenever they started. And just to see how like the inner workings of like that fashion world magazine were, you know, and that was a random experience, but it definitely showed me how the connection between like creative people, like designers, and then business, commerce, like a magazine come together. So, yeah.
Awesome. Is there something that you wish you took advantage of that you didn't that may have helped you when entering the art world?
Oof. Okay, I think maybe in my college days, I think I would have been a little more aggressive about projects that I wanted to do that maybe I thought, oh, I have to wait for somebody to help me do this.
Yeah.
You know, like whether it was like maybe waiting for an investor to like help me launch a line or t-shirts or my jewelry or whatever. It was, I think I could have been a little more proactive on my own and taken that advice of like just believe in yourself and go for it. Yeah.
That would have really been spot on then. Do you think you were exposed to enough opportunities during school? How do you think we can more effectively prepare and propel students toward more successful careers in the art world after they graduate?
That's a good question. I think getting out there and talking to people that are in the field is really important to get a sense of what it's actually like. Because what it looks like is not what it's actually like.
Really? Yeah.
Like it looks glam and like, you know, the social media lens makes a lot of things look fabulous, but it's not as glamorous as it looks. So I think getting out there and really like, whether it's talking to people or going behind the scenes, like having internships, really again delving into like the business side of how things work, because there's a lot of connection between art and commerce. And I think for artists it's important for them to understand that connection. So like what you want to communicate as an artist is platformed in the right way, and your vision is communicated the way you would like it to be, and then the people that you're working with, companies, individuals, galleries, they're also getting out of it what they want to get out. So
They're backed up with their business. What is your favorite part of your job? What makes it worth going every day?
Good question. It's always different. I think for me it's the possibilities of what we're gonna do on any given day. It's like exciting, like, ooh, we're gonna have this really cool talk with this artist that I've always wanted to meet or hear them speak. So to me it's like the different things that we're doing and the potential for what we're offering. Like I like to say, like, we always create and plan a lot of programs, but at the end of the day it's like, okay, we plan this, but what's actually going to happen, right? It's like the planning meets reality, and that in-between space is what I love to see, like how things come together.
A little bit of stress is good.
Yeah, just a little. It's like exciting.
Yeah. So now those were like our big questions. So we have a couple rapid fire questions for you. So first, what is your favorite food?
Oh my God, I was thinking about this one. I was like, oh, I like everything. Okay, I really like pomegranates. There's so much
Okay.
work to like
Yeah,
open.
but it's so worth it.
So good, yeah.
It's so worth it. Who is your favorite artist?
Oh, I can't.
I think
say
that's one so
that.
rapid fire. You get to think about that one.
That one's hard to say. I don't have a favorite artist actually.
Yourself.
Sure.
Boom.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite period? Modern, contemporary, Baroque, Renaissance, whatever.
Oh, good question. Not necessarily favorite, but I'm really interested, and I love like the futurist painters of Italy. Like they're just ideas of how to like show movement in a static kind of painting. Have been and still are like really interesting to me.
So I've never heard of that. I'm gonna look at that after.
Yeah, futurism.
And then if you use Spotify, what was your Spotify Wrapped for 2024?
Oh. Probably like 5 songs that I listen to over and over again.
You know, that's fair. I like that. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Vickles, for sharing your insights, experiences, and advice with us today.
Thanks.
Today's episode. For everyone tuning in, thank you for listening as we celebrate and learn from inspiring women, and stay tuned for our next episode as we make her story our strength.